Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am PANCZASU, introducing Battlestar Galactica Deadlock, a game that I would love to love, but unfortunately I just cannot do that, and I really wish I could. Battlestar Galactica, for those of you who do not know, is an established franchise already. It had its own TV series, two different TV series in fact, but we don't talk about the original one, we only talk about the new one, which was set in the Second Cylon War. Cylons being a race of sentient machines constructed by mankind, by the way. And funnily enough, this game is considered canon, except it takes place during the First Cylon War, so decades before the show started. So you can play this game and not get any spoilers whatsoever, which is pretty fun in and on itself. Now, I should point out something. I'm probably extremely biased towards this game for the very simple reason that I love the franchise. It is one of my very favorite science fiction franchises of all time. Like, it's up there with the Endless franchise and the StarCraft franchise, most likely. In fact, StarCraft franchise, since as of late, it's probably dropped out of the top three. Actually, the original StarCraft. What am I talking about? I'm here to talk about Battlestar Galactica. So let's focus on that, shall we? So, why do I say that I would love to love this game, but I cannot? Well, because it has a few too many flaws and not enough selling points, to be entirely honest. And just to be entirely frankly honest with you, it's not worth the price. It just isn't. The price tag is too much for anybody who's not already a fan of Battlestar Galactica, like as a franchise itself. If you are, however, a fan, then I could recommend this game to you. Yeah, I'm having fun with it, despite the fact that it was kind of pricey. I've still got many hours of joy by playing it, and I don't regret buying it. But I don't think somebody who didn't watch the show, either of the shows, would like this game as much as I did right now, because it has its problems. First of all, it's buggy. For instance, it does have a feature that lets it save replays, but as you can see, no, nothing's happening. It's not really very good at that. It has been recently released, but this thing has been backed since the release. I tried multiple things to make it work. It did not. Whatever. Thankfully, I recalled, just traditionally using fraps. Additionally, there are a few other things that are annoying, such as clunky UI, and a few things that this game fails to explain at any point at all, and it's very tedious to find out some very critical and crucial information. And there are also things that you may persuade you not to buy this game, such as comparing it to other games. In this case, I'm going to compare it quite frequently to two games that may seem unrelated at first, but they actually kind of are when it comes to how they tie into this game. And the games I'm talking about are XCOM 2 and Endless Space 2. Very different at first, but not so much. So, Battlestar Galactica Deadlock itself is a turn-based tactics game. Well, with some strategy mixed into it, but for the most part, you play on tactical grids that are somewhat, well, actually completely three-dimensional, but the ships themselves, they have more limited rotation available to them, so they do not have true 3D movement. Regardless, this is the overall premise of the game, and how about we just load into my campaign right now? I'm not going to show you any spoilers, by the way, so you don't have to worry about that. You will potentially have some minor ones, but not anything story related, just more like outfit related and what this game has in store. But that's why you're watching this video after all, right? To know what this game is all about. Also, it has never been this long for this game to load into its campaign screen, so I'm not sure what is happening. There we go. Alright, so I'm quite far into the campaign right now. I could have probably beaten it already, but I wanted to play it slow and steady, just taking my time and enjoying the fights, because I do enjoy the fights, mind you. And also I should point out, I'm playing on the hardest difficulty. It's not very hard, actually. Not only are the enemy attacks not extreme, as in it doesn't really take much effort to create a fleet that can fight any Cylon fleet that appears. But additionally, what I should point out, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, difficulty. Yeah, when it comes to battle difficulty itself, AI sometimes is very good and very aggressive, and tears your ships apart when you would not expect it to. But sometimes it literally crashes its own ships together. Like it has ship A and ship B, and then it has them on a collision course, and they both die because it miscalculated something. That's bad. That shouldn't happen. We're fighting against Cylons. They are extraordinarily intelligent, way more than humans are. I would expect better of them. Anywho, this is the main campaign screen. You will be spending a lot of the time here. Not most of the time. You'll spend most of your time during the battles themselves. Over here you command your overall fleet, and this is the strategy portion of the game. It is completely turn-based, as you can see, obviously. And there are a few things you should keep in mind. There are 12 colonies, and this is going to remind you a lot of XCOM, actually mostly XCOM 1 rather than XCOM 2. Basically the deal is this. There are 12 colonies, and they all fund the colonial fleet, which you are the exile of. And as you can see, each of those colonies has a quorum, which is kind of like government thing. I'm not gonna explain that. Anywho, you have to have at least 6 of them, and basically those colonies will drop out if they believe that you're not fulfilling the task of protecting them from the Cylon threat. Very much like in XCOM 1. So far I'm doing extremely well, nobody is annoyed, and all the colonies absolutely adore me, so this is going nicely. And again, this is showing that the difficulty of this game is not the highest, but it's not the lowest either. It's fine, it's really fine. It's if you're looking for a big challenge, then you're not gonna find it here, but challenge itself, yeah, you have some of it. Anywho, so there are 12 colonies, you need to protect them from Cylons. Cylons will send their own fleets periodically at different locations, mostly from what I noticed in Helios Alpha, which is this system, and least frequently to Helios Delta, which is this system, but this might be randomized, and maybe that's just how it happened in my game so far. This fleet will gradually increase in their technological prowess as well as in numbers, and it will take more and more effort for you to destroy them. They're not tied to story itself, by the way. For instance, you can spend years never completing more than like 2 or 3 story missions, the first 2 being tutorials, really. And the Cylons will outpace you technologically and destroy you. So you do need to complete story missions at your own pace, but make sure that you do have the technology to fight the Cylons. Right now I think I'm at a point when I never really have to complete any story missions again, because my fleets are just so very good. I might be proven wrong yet though. So, this is the screen I was talking about, and as you might imagine, your resources come from the 12 colonies. Basically, the happier they are, the more Tilium they give you. Tilium is basically your currency. It's actually fuel, so I'm not sure why it's treated as a currency, but whatever, we don't have to worry about it. RP are requisition points. This is what you use to unlock both technologies and to occasionally promote officers that are still too green to be promoted, but you can make the careers go a little bit faster, giving them more abilities quicker than they would normally deserve them, which is sometimes useful. Let's have a quick look at all the screens, because they are quite important. So, let's look at some kind of a planet, shall we? Gemini, for instance, it's one of the planets. As you can see, there are a bunch of needless stats, which I love. It's a bit hard to read the screen for people who have problem differentiating colors like I do, so I don't love that. For instance, this text, that's almost impossible to read for somebody like me, but then again, I'm in the minority. Anywho, as you can see, this screen tells you exactly how much tenure you're gaining, and that's it. I would love it if this screen also told me how strong the enemy fleet is, but I have to go to a different screen to view that, which goes back to me saying the DUI in this game is kind of clunky, because I have to remember, this is Cylon Fleet 90, alright? So let's look at the Cylon Fleet's Fleet 90, oh, it's almost 8,000 in strength. That's very high, mind you, as you can see comparing to, for instance, this fleet over there. So I already know that it's going to be a tough nut to crack, but not very tough for my main fleet, but certainly not something I would want to send my secondary fleets at. Again, I wish the game would just give you this information all in one place whenever you want it. As you can see, this quorum is steadfast, which means that this fleet, this planet is nowhere near close to defecting from the colonial fleet, which is good. Next, we can have a look-see. I mean, there are a bunch of different screens. I'm not gonna press this button because this shows missions available to you. Right now, I only have 1 story missions available. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm not gonna click it. Additionally, you have a list of all of your fleets, which is just a handy list of your fleets. And you have a general map, which is kind of actually useless. It's what you look at here, except here. I mean, maybe somebody uses it. I don't. Economy screen, it's kind of useful because it gives you a lot of information that you wish you had on the other screens. For instance, right now I know that Gemini is actually kind of close to potentially lowering its approval from steadfast to concerned, and from concerned it will go to, I don't remember. something like unsure, worried. I don't remember the word because again, this game wasn't difficult enough for this to happen very often. You start the game with some plans being really on the edge of leaving the coalition, but as you can see, it's not very difficult to make all of them steadfast, which is nice, I suppose. Anyway, but the annoying thing is, like, I cannot click on Geminon, for instance, and if I don't know the movies, I don't know what Geminon is. I would have to find it somehow, so I need to look for Geminon. Oh, there is Geminon, that's it. That's this planet right here, and I have to remember what it is, because there are no, like, I cannot, actually I can hover over the planet, and I'll see that it has Geminon written on it, but being able to at least toggle names next to the planets would be nice, I think. It would make it easier to deal with the UI. Also, wow, this game suddenly went into 15 FPS, I'm not sure why. Something strange is happening. I guess I'll have to pause recording and resume in a moment, so I'll be back. Okay, now the frame rate is stable again. I just had to pause the recording like I said. Strange. But this game does occasionally have those FPS drops. Usually not to the 15s. That's the first time I've seen that happen, but to 30s, sure, every now and again it will, or to 60s or whatever. It does sometimes drop, and then on the next turn it drops back into your desired amount of frame rate. It seems like there are some problems with optimization, but they're kind of random almost, so it's hard to say what they are exactly. Anywho, yeah, that was the economy screen. It just tells you exactly how much steam you're getting from different planets, which is useful. Next, let's have a quick look at the build ships menu, which is where you create your fleets. Right now, as you can see, I only have 3 ships installed, even though it's, unlocked, even though it's late in the game, mind you. This game does not have a lot of ship variety, which is not a bad thing necessarily, but you also have to consider that those ships cannot be customized to a large extent either. Basically, you have a very limited amount of pre-battle customizations you do once you start a battle, or rather once you engage an enemy, but before you start the battle itself. Then you can choose ship's loadouts. For example, it can change guided missiles to nukes if you so desire, which I always do. I always change that because nukes are fun. Anywho, yeah, but when it comes to ships themselves, there isn't a very big variety of them. In fact, let me just show you that right now in blueprint section. As you can see, there are 4 capital ships plus one that you start the game with, so 5 in total, I suppose. 2 battle stars, which are like the big daddies of capital ships. And there are also 4 types of squadrons in total. 1 you will never use, and 1 is just flat out worse than the Viper Mark II, so you will also swap from that. Yeah, also there are 5 munitions. You start with 1 type of munition, you unlock torpedoes really quickly, and then you get a bunch of other ones until you get nukes. This is the entire technology tree, by the way. As you can see, I barely unlocked anything on it whatsoever. That is because there wasn't actually any need for it, but there is also another reason why I didn't do so. You see, this screen gives you remarkably little information about what you are about to unlock. For instance, alright, I can see that this Minotaur is this Atlas is a carrier. So, alright, I know that it has 2 Viper squadrons. Vipers are fighters. You can change them to different types of squadrons if you so desire for a very small cost. So, alright, it can handle 2 squadrons, that's nice. How many guns does it have? How much health does it have? What's its armor like? Does it have most armor on the sides or on the front or from the top? All of those things are important in the battles themselves because ships have different types of armor. For instance, I know that, okay, I already used this. I know that elements have really nasty armor from the sides, and they have a nice amount of turrets from that fire broadside as well, but they have no weapons pointing to the front, to the back, to the top or to the bottom of the ship, and the armor on the front is made of paper, literally. So that's information I know from experience, but not because the screen told me, because it never did. It just tells me more or less what this ship is about and what its customizable armaments can be, and that's it. And that's not enough information, I'm sorry. Especially since, okay, that's technology screen. You can make an argument that, well, we're researching this, so we don't know it yet. But then when you go to this screen, it does give you information, but it doesn't give you all the information. Like, I don't know how much DPS, for instance, those turrets would do, and that could be crucial information. It still doesn't tell me exactly where its turrets are. I mean, I can see on the screen that they are on the side, but maybe if I didn't use Adamant before, I would expect that there are some turrets on the bottom. You know, one screen is not quite enough. And again, this information should really be here to inform me of what I'm purchasing. The reason because it's not here, this is why I have been so reluctant to unlock any technologies, because I'm not sure if those ships could fit my playstyles. I'm not sure if there would be any use whatsoever. In fact, there's also another reason why I didn't want them, and that's because I can tell that they are very focused on doing one task extremely well and other tasks quite poorly. For instance, this ship, it's a cruiser, it fires a lot of missiles. Yeah, I could install 2 nukes on it, that's kind of nice. It's kind of like a nuclear submarine almost. But how fast is it? I would love to know how fast it is, but I don't know that. And it's information that could be used. And I have another ship that could kind of serve the same purpose that I already know, that is tested and tried. It has more versatility that I can use in different scenarios. And this guy, too much of a risk. I don't want to waste my precious requisition points on unlocking this guy. Same goes with him. He only has armor and guns, that's his shtick. Where are his guns and armor? And how good are they? I didn't know that, so I'm not gonna risk spending a ton of points unlocking something that I don't know how well it would perform in a battle. And I need to know that, and because I need to fit it with the rest of my fleets. Or just I want to know if I would deem it useful whatsoever. So again, that's I don't even know how much it would cost me to make this guy, but I suppose this kind of information is the least important, but it's still something I would like to know. I bought the Battlestar, unlocked the Battlestar the moment I could have, because it's a Battlestar, you know, that's the name of the game almost. Although these are not the Battlestars of the same class as Battlestar Galactica is, they are weaker class, it's a light Battlestar as you can see. I unlocked it because of the cool factor, but again, I did this taking considerable risk, maybe it was bad. In fact, after the very first use, I thought that it is kind of awful actually, but later on I learned better how to use it and that it is actually really good at its job. And that it's not actually like a tank, it's just really good at dishing out damage, but not actually very good at taking it. None of your ships are good at taking damage, and the reason for that is that, again, directional armor, I did talk about this. Ships take different amount of damage from different sides. Or rather, they don't take a different amount of damage, but different sides have their separate HP bars. And then there's the general hull armor, health pool, which is depleted once something hits a portion of your plating that has been ripped off already. So, one thing that most ships have in common that you own is that front armor is, even if it's as high as all the other things are or whatever, it always goes down fast. There's no exception to this rule, for the reason being that when, let's go to the other screen again, that when somebody fires on the ship, right, even if they fire from the side like this, but they hit this area of the ship, then it will be counted as front damage. And as such, it's the front armor that will be damaged. And it doesn't matter if they fire from this angle, from this angle, from this angle, from the top, from bottom. If they hit the cockpit part, it takes front damage, which I'm not against actually. I'm just warning you that this part of armor falls ridiculously fast and you need to protect it to the best of your abilities, because even if you turn your ship but the enemy fires from behind you but from a different angle, maybe it's slightly higher than your ship is, and then its missile goes like all the way to the front of your ship, and it can still hit the front and it can still destroy your ship if you're not careful, because you let this armor piece fall down too quickly. So it's something to take in mind. Personal advice for rookies: I've so far found that you really only do need 3 types of ships. Your starting ship, Manticore, which is amazing, mind you. You may underestimate it, but it's very cheap to build, and once you unlock nukes, it's an extremely quickly scout ship that can reveal the enemy's positions, which is crucial. You cannot lock onto the enemy with your missiles unless you see them, and this guy can do that very easily for you. And then once he's in them, he can immediately nuke them for a ton of damage. That's mwah. By having a fleet filled with those guys, you can have a ridiculous amount of nukes. The problem is, all of your fleets are limited to 7 ships at maximum. I mean, I say it's a problem. This game is actually handling you controlling multiple ships really poorly. So I guess it's kind of a good thing that there's a limiter, because having more than 7 ships at a time would make every turn take forever. Because you cannot group control ships, you can only control them one by one. Anywho, yeah. Again, personal advice for rookies: Manticores are underappreciated, but in the middle game they are indeed quite weak. They are strong in early game and in late game when you unlock nukes. Adamants are true heroes. The amount of firepower they have is ridiculous and was able to carry me all the way to the late game even. They're extremely cost effective. Their fighters do a great job at destroying the enemy. The missiles, again, are very useful, the fact that they actually have access to them. And they're also quite fast. And even though the front armor is non-existent, again, it doesn't matter if you have 30 or 75, it's gonna be destroyed extremely quickly. The good thing about those things is that they have good armor on the sides, and they can maneuver also quite nicely, as opposed to this giant guy over there. They are much faster, as you can see, even though the 10 red is technically speaking the same. Because of their speed, it's much easier for you to prevent them from being blown up. So they are actually good. And others, Battlestars, they're mostly designed to destroy enemy base stars, which is the enemy capital ships. And those guys, 2 of those can destroy 5 base stars with a little bit of effort, but they can still do that without that much of a problem. Assuming you also have Daedalus in combat as well to give you some extra Viper squadrons, because you will need those actually. Either way, they are extremely powerful, and they are not as good at fighting against regular capital ships like not fighters, but frigates and whatnot. They have some difficulties with those sometimes potentially. Strength in numbers is good against Battlestars, but they still pack a lot of punch. I'm not sure if that was the grammatical way of saying this, because I'm trying not to cough right now because I swallowed some of my own saliva, which not swallowed, but it's as in it got into my lungs. Not fun. No, but it's fine. I'm trying to speak and I'm still doing fine. Okay, so I talked about all those things. There's also the officer screen. You can assign each officer into one of your fleets, and each officer, as you can see, they're what you might call it, thingies. Think of it as skill tree. It differs slightly, like the side skills are always the same. They increase the amount of fleet points you can have in a single fleet, which means that you can have more and the bigger ships inside of a single fleet. The middle thing is usually a fleet-wide bonus to one of your ship's systems, which I'll explain later. And then you have something that helps your officer generally either boost the ship that he's on, or is just some other thing that is just nice to have. Either one. Anyway, you do want to have an officer with every single fleet you have, because they can boost its power significantly, and also they allow you to actually have actual fleets rather than small, tiny whatchamacallits with just 2 fleets each. Alrighty then, so how do you act on this map? So, first of all, you can click on any fleet you want, and you can assign an officer to it, you can rename it, whatever, you can transfer it to a different fleet that is in the same system, except when you can't. I mean, I could in this instance, but I don't really want to do that. I don't confirm, thank you. Instead, what I'm going to do is reinforce one of my other fleets that needs to be strong in order to fight against the Silence. In this case, I'm talking about this fleet, so I'm going to jump it to Pycon, and as when I click on 10, it will resolve its jump and it's going to appear in the system. Now, there is a problem. It's that if this ship jumps, and at the same time a Silent ship jumps into this system, then the game will force me to choose which fleet will engage the Silent, either this ship or this fleet. I cannot order them to both merge and attack the Silent fleet together, even though they are in the same system and they should be able to do that. It's just a bit stupid, because you can have 2 fleets that you wanted to combine together, and that together have the stopping power to fight against the Silent threat, but because you just moved them, you didn't have time to press the transfer button, and the battle has already been declared, and you have to make the option, and you have either to run away or lose your fleet, which is annoying. I wish that in the event that Silence attack multiple fleets at the same time, you had the option to then merge them. That would make sense. Even if it costed you some Tilium, for sure, that would be fine, but there isn't any option like this right now. Why did I mention Tilium? Well, because all of your fleets have sometimes it takes to recharge their FTL faster than light engines. So, for instance, if I were to move my battle group Daedalus, which is the name of the mobile shipyard that mankind uses, then it just jumped to the system it's in right now, which means that it's now waiting to recharge its engines. I can, however, speed this up by spending a lot of my resources, but this allows me to move it instantly to another system. So I select the destination and then accept the fact that I have to waste a lot of fuel in order to make that jump prematurely. But I can do that, and that's fun. Alrighty then, let's resolve the 10 and show you what happens exactly when this is. Also, I should probably... Alright. Yeah, that lady you had, that was the narrator. So, oh, that's what I mentioned. That's exactly what I was talking about that just happened. As you can see, those 2 fleets, Those are the ones I was talking about. They can match. This guy can command a fleet that is big enough to fit all those 5 ships together. But I cannot merge them. I have to pick one of them, and then I'll have to fight as that one fleet. Without the support of the giant ship I just sent in there just to support this fleet. It's dumb. It really is. Alrighty then, anywho, let's proceed. As you can see, I have my main fleet that is about to engage this other Silent fleet on Caprica. By the way, I haven't mentioned, there is also a news feed. It shows you a status report on things that you just did, which you don't really probably care about, but also some news, usually related to something that happened. For instance, colonies upload Admiral Kane's division of Silence operations at Coculus. That's what I did. Admiral Kane is not your name, you're somebody else. Admiral Kane is your direct superior officer. So yeah, let's proceed to a battle, shall we? And I'll show you exactly how that looks like. And I just spilled tea all over myself because I was too eager to drink it, because I didn't want it to take too much time. Well, that's a mess. I hate it when there's liquid on me. Oh well. Things like that do happen, I suppose. Now, during this battle, you'll probably hear that music in this game that's one of its selling points. It's amazing. Shame that there isn't a way to buy the game with the soundtrack as a bonus. Like, if there was, I would have done this without thinking, but there isn't a way to do that. I haven't actually looked for the soundtrack online yet. I'll probably try to find it and see if I can buy that through some other means, but it just seems strange that the game doesn't include the soundtrack. Unless it does in the game files, I haven't actually looked. But the Steam doesn't show it anywhere. So, I don't know. Maybe it does. It would be nice. Now, this fleet is, I know, strong enough to fight against any threat, basically. I used to have an extra scouting ship at the front that would spearhead my assault and also scout out the enemy for me and launch a nuke. But I was a bit too aggressive last time and got blown up. Oops. Whatever. I can make more. Anywho, this is the screen when you customize your ship's positioning. So, for instance, if I wanted my Daedalus mobile shipyards to be at the front in the side, for instance, I can do that. I can also change its height to a certain limited degree. You can then, once the battle starts, you can move any ship in any direction, up or down, left or right, front, back, without any limitations. I mean, other than your engine limitations, because there's only a limited distance you can cover inside during a single turn. But it's not like you can only go 5,000 miles upwards. You can go any distance you like. It's just your deployment screen is limited, so that both fleets, you and the enemies, are more or less on the same playing field. So yeah, you can move it. You can then have it up or down. It's fine. You can do a lot of things. This is also the screen when you customize some of the few things you can customize about your fleet. For instance, right now I have my mobile shipyards carry 2 squadrons of Viper Mark IIs. If I for some reason wanted a squadron of Mark Is, I could have that. And this would make it weaker, because those guys are actually much slower and deal less damage. Sure, they have more hull points, but usually the enemy doesn't even bother trying to fire at the Vipers because they are too agile anyway, so the hull points don't really matter. I can still give it Raptors. Don't give it Raptors. I could, but you shouldn't do that. I'll just give you that tip. Also, now, because I have Daedalus in here, changing anything about this fleet is free. As you can see, it's free of charge, but if this was a different fleet, it would actually cost me some small amounts of Tedium to upgrade any of those things. And again, same goes with munitions. I can have guided missiles, torpedoes, nukes. If I unlocked other types of munitions, I could unlock them as well. But seriously, when you have nukes, do you really need to have anything else? Let's press the done button. Now, as you will notice right now, it does take some time before your ships actually jump into the battle and the battle actually starts. This is where the game is calculating where the enemy ships are, I assume. It takes surprisingly long amount of time. And when you attack, there's this cool jumping in animation, which you love at first, but then it gets, maybe not old, but it takes even more time that sometimes you have to spend waiting for the battle to start. We're still waiting. There we go.
2, 1.
And that's the animation I was talking about. Usually it zooms in on each individual ships, but sometimes it just focuses on your Daedalus shipyards, and that's that. So yeah, it took a very long time to just start the battle, didn't it? It happens. As I mentioned, this game does have some problems with optimization. Also, I'll have the pan speed increase because I don't want to press my keyboard, because my microphone will pick it up and my keyboard is really loud. I mean, Can you hear that? Yeah, that would be too loud. I will try to minimize it. So anyway, this is the battle screen. This is where you issue orders. This is the main part of the game. This is the most fun part of the game, except when you have to micromanage too many ships. That's when it gets slightly annoying, unfortunately. So what I do in this battle is usually I'll just show you what I do and then I'll explain what happens exactly. So first things I do is Daedalus shipyards, it's immobile, it cannot move, it can only use FTL drives to jump between systems, but inside the battle it's completely stationary. So it has some very crappy turrets on it, but generally speaking you don't want it to take any damage. So I have it CAC, which is your command module. You have it so that all of its power is moved into defensive posture. What does it mean? Well, let's show you exactly right now. So if I press space, I can go ahead and go into the posture, which right now for some reason doesn't show you anything. So let's show you that with a battle style, shall we? So let's go into battle stance posture. Nice and easy. So as you can see, those are all the stats you can get access to. Again, sometimes hard to read, but I suppose you can deal with that. If I want, I can change this posture and observe the changes directly. So for instance, I can see how increasing the defensive rating would make me that my fire control systems and navigation systems, which change the speed of your ship as well as its ability to fire, well, they lose some of their power, meaning that you don't hit as hard. But then again, you're better at repelling the enemy hacking ability because your tech base is stronger. You take less damage because your engineering is stronger. And so on and so forth. Everything has its advantages and disadvantages, which is why you want to kind of fiddle with this thing around as much as you can. You can also boost thrusters incidentally, which means that all of your systems are really crap, but your engines are extraordinarily effective, which is good when you need to close your distance or run away from the enemy as quickly as possible. Don't overdo the second one because sometimes it's risky, because boosting thrusters does mean that your engineering is also crap. So keep that in mind. Alright, so there's that thing. So I explained why I want Daedalus shipyards to be at defensive posture, because it gives you a lot of radar vision, so if anybody comes near them, I'll know about it, and if something fires at it, it's going to take less damage, which is again important. And if somebody tries to do anything else with it, again, it's well protected against that. Next, I'm going to have it launch its Vipers. Now this is something I really wish there was a button, like a fleet-wide button to launch all Vipers, because I'll show you what else I do in every single battle I'm in. What I do is press button and shotkeys to launch Vipers. The same for every ship that can launch Vipers. There's no reason not to launch your Vipers at the start of the battle. They are your primary assets. They don't necessarily deal the most damage, but they're very frequently tied for the most damage with the battle styles themselves. So that tells you how important the Vipers are. You can't neglect your squadrons. And there should be just one button to have all your ships launch your Vipers. I don't see why there wouldn't be. Of course, sure, in some battles maybe you don't wanna, but then you can micromanage. In most battles you do want to launch all of them at the same time, and I don't know why you cannot do that. Additionally, there are some things that the game doesn't tell you. For instance, maybe you want to know how far can this Battlestar fire. There is a way to check that. One way is kind of obnoxious. You press space, you go to turrets, and then you can see that. You can also configure each turret to either fire capital ships, on closer ships, or to fire on squadrons, which is, you know, fighters and the like. This setting, as far as I know, does not save itself, meaning that those things will only fire at that if you set them to fire at a specific thing, on the next battle you have to set it up again for each individual ship, which takes some time because you then have to exit the screen, move to the other ship, press space, press turrets, and then do the same thing. Takes a while, don't you think? It takes more than a while. Again, one shipwide button would help this game immensely and make it an easier thing to recommend as well. Also, I really wish to know more about the turrets. For instance, like, okay, I know that the front heavy cannons, which are, by the way, if you want to look, these ones, the highlight ones, or the top cannons over here are these. They look nice, right? I know that they have a range of 5,000 meters. Okay, that's good, I suppose. Fire rate very low, accuracy very low, damage 4. Do I know what this means? No, not a clue. I have no idea. I wish it would tell you, the game would calculate its damage per second, for instance, because I don't know what very low fire rate means. No clue. Maybe it could tell me how many shots it fires in a single turn. That would be somewhat useful. At least it would give me a chance to calculate the TPS. Or, you know, like in any game ever, it could calculate the DPS for me, because that would be nice. Also, accuracy very low. I mean, like, can you give me a percentage rather than very low? That would also speak to my imagination better than just an arbitrary name for accuracy. I don't know what very low means. And from my perspective so far, it hasn't been very low at all, in fact. Doesn't mean that its fall-off is faster. You can see that there are different ranges of effectiveness on your weapons. But again, I don't know what they mean exactly. Doesn't mean that if some enemy ships is hit, then I have a 100% chance to be hit, and over here I have a 50, or maybe here I have 10, and in here I have 80. I don't know. I would love to know. The game never tells you that, which is kind of annoying. Another thing the game doesn't tell you, your battle stars have something called flak. Now the game does tell you that, hey, you can use flak, like so. It damages everybody. It's unilateral damage, so if you try to use it and there are your ships in the area, or if if your munitions pass through the area, for instance, if I were to launch a nuke from this ship over here to the side over there, then my own nuke will be caught in the flak and explode right next to my ship. Probably not what you want, so make sure you don't do that. I did that once, more than once actually. So yeah, anyway, so if I fire the flag, cool, now the ship will be protected from the side. What the game does not tell you, which is logical, but it still should tell you, is that whenever you fire flag, these side turrets, these side turrets, they stop to fire at the enemy ship. Because instead of firing at the enemy ships, they focus on just firing flag, preventing enemy fighters and munitions from getting close to your battle stars. Again, it makes sense, especially if you watched the series, or if you played those kind of games in the past or whatever, or if you're just quick thinker or whatever. It does make sense. But the game should state that. Because maybe you think that flag is fired from entirely different guns than the guns right here. Because there's also an explanation. Maybe the ship is firing flag from those holes, which you don't know what they do. Fun fact, they launch Vipers, but maybe you didn't know that. Maybe you think the flag comes from over here, for instance, or whatever. Game should tell you that. So again, that's another bit of criticism. But other than all of what I just explained, it's actually really fun. So let's start to command ships, alright? Alright, so I can see that there are another different contexts over there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through this battle and show you exactly what I do. I'll play through the entirety of it, most likely it would take too long, and I expect the enemy has base stars, so again, even longer time to actually do anything. And I don't have any scout ships, so because I have nukes, I want to stay far away from the enemy and fire them and destroy at least one ship or two before the enemy can even fire upon me. So I'm not in a hurry. I'm going to start moving my battle stars in kind of a pitched fork formation, so I can then attack the enemy from two sides with both arms formation, kind of. Which I've noticed works quite well. I also tend to group my ships, my capital ships that is, in a group of either 2 or, in the case of small ships, 4, which means that these two will always substitute each other and help each other out. So if one ship is about to fall because its defenses grow weaker, the other can shoot it with its own armor or flak or whatever. Additionally, when these two focus on a single ship, they will focus on it perfectly well, which means that it will fall much faster than it otherwise would if those ships were in drastically different positions, which is why I like to group my ships so much, and which is also why I do tend to take quite a bit of care when it comes to ordering those ships around. Additionally, I could leave those ships at what they are right now, but I'm just going to have them maximize attack ability, because I will do that later. I might as well do it right now. And let's go ahead and end the 10, because there's nothing else I can do. So end 10. Now you can command you control your camera and watch what happens. As you can see, the battle music also gets a bit louder, and in a moment it's going to calm down once this 10 is done processing. There we go. Nothing happened because the enemy is so far away from me. Kind of unfortunate for either video, but it happens. Now you have more information. For instance, I see that only one of the enemy ships launched fighters, which means that it's either light carrier or it's the entire base star. For now, it's too difficult for me to tell. So what I'm going to do is a tedious thing you have to do every single time. You can't command multiple fighters one by one. You just have to select what you want to kill individually for every fighter. And it's not as hard to click as in find the enemy. I can also just let them pick the nearest target, which is faster, which I'm going to do right now. Is that fun? I mean,
Yes, sir.
the game is fun, but doing this isn't when I can imagine just, you know, being able to group your fighters and telling them to order multiple things at the same time. That would be nice. For instance, right now I would not order all my fighters to focus fire on this target. That's not necessarily what I would maybe want to do, but I'm gonna do it because it's faster. Also, I'm going to... there's no need to waste time moving my battle stars. I'm going to have them as they are for now. Now, also another thing about the fighters themselves is that they're really dumb when it comes to the AI. For instance, fighters have an ability to defend your own ships. What do I mean by defend? I mean that their primary goal is to shoot down, intercept and shoot down incoming enemy fighters, and their secondary goal is to shoot down enemy incoming ordnance, such as enemy missiles or torpedoes or nukes or whatever. They are meant to do that. However, you cannot tell them which thing to prioritize. So let's say if there is a nuke heading for your ship, and there is a squadron of few damaged raiders also going at your ship, you fighters are going to try and shoot down the enemy squadron of raiders rather than take down the nuke that is about to blow your ship up. Annoying. It happened to me again in the past more than once before I unlocked flag technology, which allows me to circumvent the issue somewhat, but I still wish you could, that either, you know, fighters were smarter, or you could tell them what to prioritize when they are actually defending. Alrighty then, let's go ahead and end the 10. I'm not going to command my battle stars all that, you know, vigorously, because we want to get through this battle as quickly as possible. For that reason, I'm going to press the N10 button again as quickly as possible, unless I get vision over the enemy ship. I did not. Alright, so now I'm just going to command my battle stars to start making a small 10, because I want to make sure that I can engage the enemy at an optimal range and that my two battle stars are not too far apart from each other, because that would not be very good. They do want the two pairs to support one another whenever it is actually necessary. And you can notice that I'm also trying to make them as low as humanly possible. That's just because those battle stars, they actually have really nasty top weapons. They are artillery weapons, as you saw previously, and they're very good at blowing things up. So anyway, now as you can see, we are in range of the enemy, and my fighters do my scouting job for me, and they start uncover the enemy ships. Now, I oftentimes use my fighters as my scouting ships. They're not very good for the job, as you can see. They do not. Their raiders are very weak. I did not even see what those ships are, but that's fine. They already uncovered more than enough for me. So what I'm going to do now is fire nukes to at least soften up the enemy. So fire the first nuke, and in fact the first two nukes at this ship. This should be enough, more than enough to destroy it, in fact. Then I'm going to fire another nuke. This guy, I know it's going to instantly kill him from experience. It's the weakest ship the enemy has. And finally, last nuke is going to go to this guy. In fact, this guy is fully at full health. This guy has taken some damage already. So I'm going to cancel this nuke and fire this guy. Instantly, when you want to focus fire at a particular ship, it's easy when that ship you want to focus fire on is the closest. But if the enemy ship that you want to focus fire on is not the closest, then that takes some extra effort, and again, that's when bandboxing your ships would be very useful. Sadly, you cannot do that. I'm trying to bandbox right now, not happening. Alrighty then, I'm not in a hurry to get to the enemy lines. I can just sit here and be pretty, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Once the enemy is in range of my guns, that will be cool, but for right now, I don't need to worry about a thing. So let's make sure that my ships are more or less in line. Like so, and 10.
Hostile unit identified.
And we can just enjoy watching our fighters fire the enemy ships. The enemy ships are pretty poor at fighting fighters. Again, Vipers are amazing. And here go my nukes. And my battle stars have finally opened fire at the enemy ship as well. It's, as you can see, in the extreme range. Also, a button that the game never tells you exists, but there is a button that lets you toggle on or off the range of the enemy turrets. It's amazing. I only found it by accident very recently. I wish I was able to find it a bit sooner because of how useful it is. The only way you can find it, however, is if you look through all of the key binding options. It's there. So yeah, it's useful for you to have. I don't remember what it was bound to originally. I think it was backslash or /, one of the two. Sorry, I don't remember anymore. Anywho, alright, so my ships open fire. They have a very powerful front guns, and I don't need to defend from incoming enemy ordnance yet. Even if the enemy does fire ordnance, and I know those guys can fire ordnance, and as you can see they have nasty armor piercers, I don't need to do that yet because I'm very far away from the enemy, so I'm not gonna bother trying. Instead, I'm going to have my ships lower their altitude again to give my artillery weapon more time to more opportunity to fire. And again, I'm going to have my ships to point at the enemy. Also, incidentally, you can make your ships strafe, like this. You are in space after all, so even if your ships are very big, you can still have them move kind of against what you feel like law of physics, but it does fit law of physics because you are in space. So let's go ahead and observe the battle. I don't think we will see the nukes fire just yet, but as you can see, the enemy did fire missiles, and we'll see if I was right in not activating the flag. Probably not. I might take some damage, but I was not particularly afraid of those missiles just yet. Yeah, I'm going to take damage. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the priorities on the ship. I'm going to make sure that it's as defended as possible, and I'll try to protect myself with flak. I don't think it can turn fast enough, but not from these missiles, but from these missiles it should be able to. So, I'm going to activate flak on both of these ships, in fact, because why not? That's why I have them working in tandem after all. And I know that the enemy launch all of the missiles possible. Like, those ships don't have any missiles, they don't carry any missiles, as you can see. They only carry, this ship carried raiders. So those ships don't need to use flak. Instead, those ships are going to try and destroy the enemy. I'm going to have them move at their maximum speed to take some hit off of those ships which are about to be hit and will not be able to fire quite as effectively. So, this guy is going to make a hasty 10 like this and try to avoid being hit by the entire salvo of the enemy missiles, and the top ship is going to move alongside it, again trying to catch some missiles, and just later on I might need it to protect the bottom ship from taking any more damage. So let's go ahead and see how all of this turned out to be. So as you can see, those missiles, well, they hit pretty well, but the other ones were intercepted by my flak and promptly destroyed. Meanwhile, my base stars, well, they are firing quite nicely, as you can see, and the enemy is going to take some extreme damage from me fighting. Now, I should micromanage my fighters to choose my targets carefully, because I know for a fact that they don't need to fire this nemesis. It would die probably next to do my battle stars, but I cannot do that, unfortunately. And since this is the last nemesis online and has to recharge its launch tubes, whatever, I can now disable the flak, and as such continue the assault head on at the enemy fleet. This is a very weak enemy fleet, by the way. I was expecting something a little bit better. Unfortunately, that's not what I got, but nevertheless, sometimes you just cannot complain. As I can see, I took a lot of front armor damage, but it's nothing beyond control. I can still face the enemy head on and try to murder them. And I'm not going to focus on the nemesis, it's about to die. Let's start firing at this guy, because he should be in my extreme range. And it's just barely in my extreme range. And soon enough, as you can see, I cannot fire from the sun because I'm using flak, but I'm about to stop firing flak, so it will be in range. And I'm also going to tend to face the enemy, so the front guns will fire. So again, it's going to be fine. And additionally, the enemy ship will be moving closer, so it might not even be in extreme range by the end of the stand. Now, as for you, dear sirs, I'm going to have those battle stars move slower and go a little bit lower, so that my top artillery can indeed fire at the enemy. And I'm not going to change the target priorities because I know they'll focus on Nemesis because of how close it is. Now, Nemesis itself, it's going to start hacking. That's what they do. They disable your subsistence, but thankfully, I have just way too much firepower for this to matter, and the enemy is just going to die horrible, painful death. Or rather, it would be painful if they had pain receptors. Do silence have pain receptors? I mean, okay, I can't talk about the subject without spoiling anything, so I'm just going to change the subject altogether. Let's have those ships turn slightly, and there's a problem, potential problem that is. I know that this ship, those ships in total, they can keep firing at the front of my Battlestar, so I'm going to have it turn a little bit more extremely, like so, because I don't want to risk it taking too much damage to the front of its hull. And in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to have it go underneath the enemy ships. Which is a thing I used in a lot of battles as well, because generally speaking, most ships, including silent ships, have very weak bottom weapons. So if you are under the enemy ships, they cannot fire at you, and you have very powerful top artillery, which means that if you get underneath enemy ships will die. They have very little to say in that matter. Alrighty then, let's go ahead and observe this then. How well is that going to go? As you can hear, the battle sounds themselves are not actually all that... Oh, there we go. The front damage is... the front armor is gone and it's being destroyed. The battle sounds are not necessarily the best. There's... it feels like bass is overtuned a little bit in this game. Like, I can hear a lot of bass, but not much else, actually, when the battle is happening. I'm not talking about the music, by the way. The music is perfect. There's nothing wrong about the music, but aside from the music, that is, there are some issues. So anyway, I'm going to have this guy try to go underneath this ship, like promised. That's bad, because I exposed the front to this other ship, which could be bad. So let's go like this and start strafing. And this guy is going to follow him. Actually, no. Right now, this guy has a lot of armor. Let's just try to unload my front weapons. This guy is about to die, so let's have it unload the front weapons on the Talon. It's still targeting the Revenant because I want to finish off the Revenant, but soon the Revenant will no longer be a problem. By the way, if you're wondering if there is friendly fire in this game, there certainly is. Ships can fire missiles at your own ships if they're in the way. The other weapons can also fire themselves. For instance, if I have artillery fire from this ship to the other...
We've got a new Dratus contact.
Oh. Okay, this sometimes happens. Sometimes randomly the enemy will get reinforcements. It very rarely happens. This is the second time over the course of my entire campaign, and I don't know where the battle is. Alright, there it is. It's taking a... This video is going to be much longer than I expected. But if this happened more frequently, that would be kind of nice, I suppose. Because, again, it adds to the fear factor of you never knowing what you're facing. But at the same time, sometimes... again, it only happened twice for me, including this time, which is kind of not very reliable, all things considered. And additionally, the problem with that is that once I had a very, very close battle against the enemy. My ships were outgunned and outclassed, and I should have lost, but because of the way I commanded them, I knew I would win just barely. But then after probably an hour of battling, the enemy suddenly got reinforcements. And I had to, you know, I had to just watch my ships die. And the annoying thing is, there is no way for you to just surrender. Oh, for crying out loud. Oh, okay, I might actually lose this battle. Because the enemy dropped in a missile cruiser right in front of the Daedalus shipyards, which are undefended from missiles, by the way. So, you should probably try to leave some Vipers protecting them. So, I gotta do that now. It's probably not going to be too late. Daedalus shipyards do have a lot in terms of health points, but still. Alright, so as you can see, this ship is hacked and its fire control is going out, which is annoying because fire control is your direct source of damage. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to increase the defenses, but I'll keep firing at the enemy with the fire control I currently have. And as for this guy, he's going to also keep firing at the enemy, but it's not. Its fire control is down. I mean, it's heavily damaged, so let's have it start. It's doing its 10 over here, far away from the enemy fire, and start repairing its guns while it's at maximum defensive posture. Meanwhile, let's have my other Battlestars join the fight. Oh boy, this guy is also very badly injured. And like I said, front armor tends to fall extremely quickly. So you go like this, activate flak on the right side to make sure you're protected. Repair your fire control like so, and you're ready to fight. So go ahead and do just that. And the enemy, actually, wait, the enemy has some time before they can fire back. So there's no need to use flak just yet. Before they can fire again, I mean. So let's focus fire on the Nemesis so it cannot hack us. And let's have all my active base Battlestars do the same. So you just I'm going to use this posture, which is a mix between defensive and offensive. So its firewalls can somewhat keep up, but it can also fire at the enemy quite aggressively. And go down like this. And you're at maximal defensive posture. Alright, good. Let's have the 10 and start firing. As you can see, yeah, the front guns are very powerful on the ship. And I do try to focus on the enemy. And the enemy launched some extra raiders, so we'll see what those raiders do. Hopefully not much, but the Daedalus shipyards might actually fall. They have probably... yeah, the armor is gone. That's not very surprising, actually. The enemy raiders, which may have been heavy raiders which carry boarding parties, it looks like they were instantly shot down, so that's not a problem. Now, I must be careful, because Battlestars can actually... no, they can actually hit each other in space, which would be bad. The enemy has reloaded their missile tubes, so they are about ready to fire again. So I need to get down. And oh, hey, there are the enemy fighters. That's a raider squadron, nothing to be afraid of. So anyway, let's prepare flak. on the left. Make sure that this ship doesn't get damaged, and I'll still have it firing. In fact, I'll have it fire as much as it humanly can. Now, as for you, dear sir, you're also going to launch flak. From the right side, it should be fine, no problemo. And this ship, again, it repaired some of its fire control, and I want to destroy the enemy really badly, so I'm going to have changed its course somewhat. Reactivate fire, because when you repair fire control, all your weapons are deactivated, by the way. And I'll have it maximum damage, activate flag on the right side, and in fact I'm going to face the enemy this way, so that I'm sure that all of the enemy missiles will be intercepted if the enemy does fire missiles. And you just continue repairing, but do get ready to rejoin the fight and also activate flag on this side to make sure that the enemy cannot fire at you. Now, the problem is, those fighters, I sent them to defend Daedalus, but as you can see, they are already attacking the enemy. So I'm going to reorder them to defend Daedalus shipyards, because if the enemy fires another salvo at Daedalus shipyards, that would be really bad. So let's make sure that this doesn't happen. Alright, so let's end the 10. My Artemis is taking damage, and as you can see, yeah, the enemy is again firing at the Daedalus shipyards. What do my fighters do? Do they shoot down the missiles? No, they don't, because they're dumb. Instead, they continue to fire at the enemy guided thing, and oh boy, I'm surrounded from all sides. That's kind of cool. But unfortunately, I don't really have time for this video to be any longer. It's almost an hour long, and I think by watching this, you know what you want. And I didn't want to show you the replay system, but I recorded something beforehand, so I'll just attach a replay to this battle, to the end of this video, and I'll let you watch that without my commentary in case you care about it. Anywho, I mean, this battle will be won regardless. My battle stats are still fine, and Daedalus should be able to take another damage, some extra damage. Oh no, actually it's probably going to be blown up. Anywho, doesn't really matter. Exit to main menu. I think after watching this, you know if this game is for you or not. It does have a lot of needless micromanagement that can be fixed with patching. Also, if this game does go on sale, it will be probably worth recommendation. Right now, it's way too expensive. If you want to watch really cool space battles, buy Endless Space 2. You cannot command your ships in Endless Space 2 during battles, sure, but the battles look way better, the sound is better, the explorers are cooler, and they don't require you to micromanage quite as much. If you care about micromanagement, however, and you want this tactical combat experience, then the XCOM 2 is for you. Or XCOM 1 if you want to fear about countries leaving you or whatever, but I'll recommend XCOM 2. Either way, this game isn't bad. It's kinda okay, it's fun, it's not great, and it's too expensive right now. And that's all I have to say to it. So now you can enjoy the replay I'm going to attach to this video, and also it's going to be probably much louder than what you had beforehand, so be prepared. Thank you for watching. It was PANCZASU, also known as the Mighty Mix Spammer, and I'll see you online.